My name is Tony Iannarone. I'm welcoming you on behalf of the library. I am the library's president. Just so you understand, this is not a library event. It's an event held in the library. There's a difference. The library, however, we see our mission as being not just a repository of books, but an integral part of the community. And when we have wonderful township events like this, we're very happy to host them. I'm fortunate also to be a committee member of the Hall of Fame committee, so I have a dual function today. The Hall of Fame committee is actually legally organized as a subcommittee of the Friends of the Library. That is so that they have IRS clearance and it can be a charitable event. So we think you're going to enjoy it. This, I think, is like, our first one was in 2003. We've done it every other year since. And it's a nice ceremony to welcome people who are very, very deserving. It is really amazing how many Nutley people there are who have done great things in the world. And it just is an endless list of them. This year we had, I think, 32 nominees, all of whom were deserving to one level or another. We are inducting 10. So please enjoy the ceremonies, and when the ceremonies are over, some delicious foods prepared by Tariq Huggins and his students at the high school. I think you'll enjoy it. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patritacco, chair of the committee, the administrative committee for the Hall of Fame. This is our 9th induction ceremony. Right now, I'd like to have all the judges on the judges panel come out and take your seats, please. Next, I'd like all of the members of the administrative committee. Please come out and take your seats. And now we will proceed with our 2019 inductees.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Julian H Bigelow was born in Nutley. A graduate of MIT, he was an outstanding engineer and mathematician. Recruited by the noted John von Neumann at the Institute for Advanced Studies at Princeton in 1946, he followed von Neumann's design and built one of the world's earliest digital computers. Known as the IAS machine after the Institute, it established the basic template for all the digital computers that have followed. Bigelow was appointed a permanent member of the School of Mathematics Institute in 1951. He died in 2003 at the age of 90.
Accepting on behalf of Mr. Bigelow, who is deceased, is Patritacco, chairman of the Nutley Hall of Fame committee.
I don't need a microphone, as you could tell.
It sounds better.
Yeah. There are times where, because of people's schedules and people no longer with us, you're accepting an award on behalf of the awardee. This is a very unique individual because of who we are as a human race. We base our entire endeavor on communication. Not long ago, it would have taken 1,000 years to share information. First person that discovered fire, it took 1,000 years for mankind to totally share that idea. The same thing with the wheel. Julian Bigelow facilitated it for today with our iPhones, our iPads, and computers, laptops, the first digital computer he designed. Because of that, information is shared instantaneously, and it has made life for us much different and much better. We can share ideas, share thoughts, and it advances humankind in a much more prodigious and efficient way. On behalf of the Bigelow family of Julian Bigelow, I am honored to accept the award on his behalf. He has made Nutley very proud, and we are very happy to include him in our Hall of Fame. Thank you.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Arthur Hoeber was born in New York City and resided at the enclosure in Nutley from 1982 until his death. As a painter, he contributed to most American exhibitions, but was likely best known as an art critic. He was art director of the New York Times for 3 years. He was also known as a lecturer and an author of books on art. He was an associate of the National Academy. The Arthur Hoeber bookcase, with the names of Nutley authors and artists on each side, together with a self-portrait and an original landscape, may be viewed at the Nutley Library. Mr. Hoeber died in 1951 at the age of 61.
Accepting on behalf of Mr. Hoeber is John Simko, President of the Nutley Historical Society and a member of the judges panel.
I'm accepting this award on behalf of Arthur Hoeber and on behalf of his family, including Great Standing, who is living in England and was not able to be here, but was very excited that her grandfather is being inducted. As you've heard, he's a very accomplished individual. So he's one of these early enclosure artists, but he's what I think of as sort of a five-tool player. He's not only a painter, he's a potter. There were a number of places in town that people had his pottery exhibited in their house. He's an art critic. He's an art historian. He's a lecturer and a teacher. So he sort of brings all of that to Nutley. And you've heard mention of the work of art that is hanging downstairs. I urge all of you to go see it. The backstory to that is that he's one of the most loved artist who's living in Nutley at the time. So when he does die, a very untimely death, sudden death on enclosure, the rest of the Nutley Students Art Club wind up, each one of them donated a work of art to Nutley in a sense. There was an auction. Each one of those pieces of art was sold. The money went to Arthur Hoeber's widow to purchase the painting that you see downstairs here. So that was done in 1915. That painting has been hanging in our library for 104 years or so. So he's also a very loved individual in his community, and so on behalf of his family and Arthur, I know he'd be very excited to know that Nutley has accepted him once again. Thanks.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
John V. Bergen, an eminent pharmacologist, was graduated from Nutley High School in 1952. He received his Bachelor of Science from the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science, now the University of the Sciences, and his PhD from the University of Wisconsin. The most notable of his various positions were 4 years as president at the University of the Sciences in Philadelphia, and 22 years as executive vice president of the Clinical Laboratory Standards Institute. In the latter position, he made significant contributions to public health in developing standards for medical testing, healthcare services, and new technologies. He has also engaged in important volunteer activities in his field and has been recognized through a number of honorary awards. He has served as a flotilla commander in the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Diane Citrino spent her entire youth in Nutley and was graduated from the Nutley High School in 1975. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Brown University, she obtained her law degree from the University of California at Berkeley. An outstanding attorney, she has handled many complex litigation cases, but is even more widely known for her advocacy of civil rights for women and minorities, workplace equality, and fair housing issues. She has written and spoken extensively on these subjects and has received a number of awards, including the Rosa Parks Congressional Medal. She has served as chair of the Ohio Advisory Committee to the United States Civil Rights Commission.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Gary Erbe came to Nutley in 2009 and most fittingly settled in the enclosure, the historic home of many Nutley artists. A nationally known artist himself, Gary Erbe's work is characterized by his trompe-l'oeil style, which creates the illusion of 3 dimensions. Born in Union, he maintained a studio there from 1972 to 2005. After working for a few years as an engraver, this amazingly self-taught artist embarked on a long career of excellence. His paintings have been widely displayed, and he is a highly respected member of the art community and various art associations. Interested persons may refer to the biographical book, Footprints, The Art and Life of Gary Erbe. A copy of one of his artworks is on display in the Nutley Library.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Daniel J Geltruth, a certified public accountant, is managing partner and director of Geltrude's family office practice in Nutley, where he has resided all his life. A 1983 graduate of Nutley High School, he holds degrees from Rider, Fairleigh Dickinson, and Penn State. He has been serving on the New Jersey State Board of Accounting since his 2010 governor's appointment. An adjunct professor of accounting at Montclair State, he is the author of Positive Financial Karma. Dan is best known for his frequent appearances on Fox News, commenting on a broad range of economic, financial, and taxation issues, which has earned him the sobriquet, America's Accountant. He is also the co-founder of the Michael Geltrude Melanoma Foundation, which has saved the lives of many individuals with melanoma.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Faith S. Hatchberg was born in Nutley and attended Nutley High School under her maiden name, Shapiro. A 1972 graduate of Tufts, she received her law degree from Harvard in 1975. She became an attorney of renown, both in the private and public sectors. She has impressive accomplishments, but she is best known for her public service as United States Attorney and a federal judge, both for the District of New Jersey, positions that required confirmation by the United States Senate. As a judge, she was known for her broad expertise in handling complex cases in a remarkable number of diverse legal areas.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Malcolm J. Marmorstein, a noted screenwriter and director, lived in Nutley from 1953 to 1967 before moving to Hollywood. His credits are too extensive to list, but among his more readily recognizable movie screenplays are those for Spies, Pete's Dragon, and Return from Witch Mountain. Among his television credits, he was the head writer for The Doctors and wrote 82 episodes of Dark Shadows and 15 episodes of Peyton Place.
Accepting for Mr. Marmerstein, who is not present, is Joseph Servasio, member of the judges panel.
Well, thank you on behalf of Malcolm, who's not here, and his family. Thank you to the Administrative Committee, of course, and the nominating panel. Malcolm would have loved to have been here. He's entering his 9th decade of life on the planet Earth. He's in his 90s. He lives out in West Hollywood after his long years here in Nutley. And, you know, when you think about it, as Nutley people, the hours, the days, the weeks that he spent because he would write 7 days a week, were spent here. His subplots, his characters, his subtexts, whatever is important in the world of screenplay writing, directing, and that business of storytelling, he did in a quiet little vale nestled in the holes of Jersey called Nutley, New Jersey. Many snowy nights, perhaps. And because of that, he entertained millions. And we here appreciate his life, respect it. It was just awesome what he has contributed. He's still writing. And it kind of makes us feel better about ourselves, being Nutleyites, knowing that Malcolm Marmorstein did so much of his work here in Nutley, New Jersey. So on behalf of Malcolm and his family, we say thank you.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
James Murray is a 1995 graduate of Nutley High School. Following his graduation from Allentown University in Pennsylvania, he established himself through an understanding of athlete representation and marketing. Jim is a certified player agent with the Major League Baseball Association. Working through Hendricks Sports Management, he has represented some of the best-known athletes of our time. Notably, he has also worked for 5 years with the NFL and NFL charities in the organization and management of the annual Super Bowl charity golf tournament.
For induction into the Nutley Hall of Fame.
Mark Radice was born in Newark in 1957, but lived in Nutley from 1968 to 1982 and attended Nutley schools. A talented musician, he was signed by RCA Records in 1964 at the age of 7. A touring musician, including with Aerosmith in 1978, he is best known as a songwriter. As stated in Wikipedia, with well over 5,500 original songs to his credit, he is one of the more prolific songwriters alive. Among those songs are more than 50 for the Muppets and 160 for Sesame Street, for which he was nominated for 3 Emmy Awards. He has worked with some of the best-known artists and labels in the music industry and has produced a number of albums. He currently lives in Tennessee, tracking songs for the creators of karaoke.
Sorry? Oh, are you his brother?
Diane.
Okay. I didn't realize Mr. Radice was not able to attend, but his brother Steve is here and will accept on his behalf.
Thank you very much to the Hall of Fame Committee. Thank you everybody for showing up today. Mark passes on his regrets that he wasn't able to make it here today. He would have loved it. This is a great honor for him, for our family. If I could go in the Wayback Machine and go out on the lawn here of the library to 1974 or 5, where Mark would used to sit around with an acoustic guitar with a bunch of other hippie friends and hippie stuff. And it's been a long, crazy trip. You know, he's, like they alluded to, he's toured with Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and written with Barbra Streisand and Barry Manilow and Sesame Street and many, many others. So anyway, it's a great honor for him and for our family, and I thank you so much for thinking of us and honoring us.
Julian Cacciola, thank you very much. That's not easy. And now to our inductees. First, John V. Bergen.
I'm obviously delighted to be here, part of this ceremony. I have a story to tell, one of many I could share about growing up in Nutley. But first, I thank the judges and the Hall of Fame Committee, the Administrative Committee, for your splendid work and for prompting me to look back on my Nutley years and to think about why Nutley is so special. The Hall of Fame itself is an inspiration, proudly highlighting achievements that advance the arts, serve the public interest, and excite others, especially, I believe, the township's youth. Many other elements in the Nutley experience, as I like to call it, magnify the township's special status as an ideal family hometown. its schools, its innovations and high quality of life, its high standing among the best places to live, its beauty, such as its parks, and this town center surrounding us here, including the library, that has an emotional significance for me. I'll tell you why that is in a moment. All these and much more add to Nutley's stature and to strengthening my connection to this very special place. Now, my own Nutley story started in 1939. That's kindergarten. I have my parents to thank for relocating here just in time for me to spend all my school years in Nutley. I especially thank the Nutley schools and their teachers for their nurturing that was so supportive and for the opportunities they helped me pursue. But all was not quite as rosy as it might seem. I was not the most motivated middle school student. But visits to the Nutley Public Library fixed that. I remember in the 8th grade going to the library, finding an expansive collection on careers on a bottom shelf, sitting on the floor between the stacks for hours, not exactly good library protocol, screening the books, especially one on careers in healthcare, and being particularly excited by a description of the pharmacist's impressive public service roles. And that ignited a spark, pharmacist. Honor roll student from then on, a motivation switch of some sort turned on permanently, career direction set thanks to the library. Next stop was Heberling's Pharmacy to learn the ways, some of the ways of the profession. Believe it or not, I started by mowing the lawn around the Heberling store. Next came the soda fountain, then some familiarity with the dispensary. Now I was on my way, ultimately, toward a pharmacy degree and meaningful professional endeavors. Actually, though, I never paused long enough to practice as a pharmacist behind the counter, instead forging ahead to take on critical issues in a much wider spectrum of healthcare and standards fields. The more difficult each challenge and the greater its benefit to the public welfare, the better. So thanks to the library for kicking off a rewarding career that just kept growing in scope and impact, but would not have happened without first building a sound foundation on its pharmacy base. There's one principle of leadership that has always guided me, and I'll share it with you because I think it has great value. There is no limit to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. I'm honored to be part of this biennium's inductee group, a class of 2019. Sounds great to me. I hope all of us will guide others to find and pursue their dreams. And I'll close with my most special and personal thank you to my wife Sharon. We've been working together and supporting each other side by side for 40 plus years, and we are fortunate to have such a wonderful relationship. And it means a lot that our daughter, Lisa, was able to break away from her career and to fly in from Chicago. We are delighted she's here to share in this ceremony with us. And with that, I thank you all once again for this tremendous honor.
Congratulations. Thank you. Next, Diane Citrino.
Thank you. It is so wonderful to be here, to be back in Nutley, to see so many family and friends here, that, and to be, I agree with John, in this wonderful space where I spent so many hours just trekking here, taking out books, going back home, and sitting in my room and reading them endlessly with the house possibly burning down, but I was too absorbed in what I was reading to pay any attention. My work in housing discrimination has really emphasized the importance of place, how place really matters. Your zip code for, whether it's 07110, I hope I still got it right, or wherever it is, can determine everything from your health care to your career opportunities to your education. I was very lucky, and like John, spent my entire education career here in Nutley. Had a wonderful opportunity to learn from teachers here and got to know the community that is Nutley. This is a vibrant, amazing community. And to see, I know the program emphasizes my dad was the town attorney and town judge, and my grandfather the town doctor, but my mom is here, is my mentor who has been civically engaged and a volunteer her whole life and taught the value of kindness. I have 3 of my 4 siblings with me, my sister Suzanne, with her husband Tim Marr, Mr. and Mrs. Nutley when they were in college, who were honored with the Mattia Award for their community service. My baby sister Vicky, who's a judge here in New Jersey, and her husband Jerry Rotella. And I'm very lucky to have my brother here as well. I also have my daughter who's come in. Luckily, unfortunately, she only got to visit Nutley. She never got to experience living here. We have my other mother, Arlene Onembo, who I met her daughter Diane my first day of kindergarten, and our mothers became best friends. So she's still here and sitting in the audience. It means so much to me to have this award and to be part of this community. I'm deeply honored. I congratulate all of my fellow honorees, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. And to all my friends and neighbors who are here, especially I want to give a special shout out to Meredith Korbanek Blank for nominating me. So thank you, Meredith. I appreciate that. And for all of you, I hope you enjoy your time in Nutley as much as I enjoyed mine. Thank you.
Next, Gary Erbe.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking the judges and the administrative committee of the Nutley Hall of Fame for bestowing upon me this honor, which I really appreciate. Next year marks a real milestone for me because it marks 50 years ago that I decided to paint full-time. So it's 50 years next year that I've been painting professionally, full-time. But it really all began for me when I was 8 years old, and my stepfather introduced me to art. Little did I know at that time that it would ignite such a great interest in creating art. Fast forward to 1965, I was employed by a general contractor earning $10 a day. My first of 2 daughters had been born. And I decided at that time to take art seriously. Couldn't afford to go to art school, so I had to teach myself how to paint in oil. But within 5 years, in 1970, I decided to really make an important decision. And I did. By then I was working for a general contractor, not a contractor, an engraving company. And I decided to quit that job. I then had 2 daughters, and I had no money, not a penny to my name. I didn't even have a credit card or even a checking account. I had $0. But I decided that I was going to pursue art full time, and that was in 1970. So it was a brave decision, believe me. First year, of course, was a bit of a struggle, but something happened to me in 1971 that was extremely important. I was at an art show in it was Long Branch, New Jersey, right along Ocean Avenue. It was a 5-day exhibition. And by then I had I had bought a brand new Volkswagen van, $3,400 for a brand new van back then. What a difference than today. And it was a 5-day exhibition, so I would drive down there every day, and a friend of mine, a fellow artist, he joined me on this venture. Set up my paintings, at the end of the day, drive all the way back. I was living in Weehawken at the time. Then next day, the same thing, pack up the van, back to Long Branch. And the first 4 days, I didn't sell a single painting. So the last day comes along, and my friend says to me, Gary, I'm not gonna go down. I quit. And I told him, you know what, I'm still gonna go down that last day. So I went down alone. True story. The 11th hour of that exhibition, a man walks up to me, and he says to me, you know, I've been looking at a lot of art. I like your art very much. Which is your best painting here? I showed him one on the easel, a large work. He said, how much do you want for it? And at the time, it was like a very high price for an outdoor show. He said, I'll buy it. I delivered it to his house, and he says to me, what are you working on? I told him, I gave him an idea of what I'm working. He goes, I want to see it when it's done. Well, when it was finished, he looked at it, I'll buy it. He wound up buying 40 paintings from me. That was from 1971 till he passed away in around 2009, something like that, he passed away. So obviously, I didn't have to do outdoor shows anymore. my life completely changed. I wound up picking up other clients, museums saw my work. I had shows in museums, galleries. I started doing business with galleries. But the point I think I want to stress here is this. I'm the type of person that I don't quit. I believe you should always go that extra mile, and that's what I always did. And I was always willing to take chances too. My attitude is, listen, it's better to try it, and if you go down in flames, that's all. You get back up and you try again. So, but the main thing with my work is that I would hope that the paintings that I've created during my lifetime will in some way enlighten my fellow man. And if I can achieve that, for me, that is an accomplishment in itself. So anyway, I want to thank you very much for listening to me. And anyway, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Next up, Diane Geltrude.
First, I would like to thank the committee for this great honor, and I would like to congratulate my fellow inductees. I'm sure they feel as proud as I do right now. One of the differences between me and the other inductees, I did not spend a lot of time in the Nutley Library during my years in the Nutley school system. So that will probably give hope to others that they can get here. So back in the early 2000s, when this Hall of Fame was coming together, my father was part of that inaugural group. I believe he served on the administrative committee. And I remember him telling me about the Nutley Hall of Fame coming together. And I remember saying to him, what's Nutley need a Hall of Fame for? Do other towns have Hall of Fames? At the time, New Jersey didn't even have a Hall of Fame. I said to him, I could see the Sports Hall of Fame. Everybody knows about the athletes, but a town Hall of Fame, I don't get it. He said, well, listen, that's just the point. With the athletes, everybody knows about them, but there's so many people in Nutley who have done incredible things, had just wonderful accomplishments, and people don't know about it. So I said, okay. After my father's passing in 2006, I started to serve on the administrative committee for a period of time, and I got to see firsthand just the tremendous quality of the people there are in Nutley, and we just didn't know about it. So I was really in awe, and my father would love to know for me to say, well, Dad, you were right, but he was right. And that is why when I received the letter about being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was really taken back. As a matter of fact, I had to read it over a few times because I just couldn't understand it. So I made 2 phone calls after I finally absorbed that I was going to be inducted. My first call was to Sam Carella. So I called Sam. She congratulated me as soon as she answered the phone. I said, Sam, listen, I'm not looking for any compliments here. I just want to ask a simple question. Why am I going in? So Sam was very complimentary and said some very kind things. I said, listen, Sam, thank you so much. I don't get it, but still, thank you. My second call was to my mother. So I called my mom and I said, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that I'm being inducted into the Nutley Hall of Fame. And she said, that is so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Now I have 2 sons in the Hall of Fame because my brother John is in the Nutley Sports Hall of Fame. And she said, I just can't be happier. And she said, by the way, why are they putting you in? That's true. So we all had the same question, but here I am. So in what I do on television, I have a chance to be around a lot of people who are somewhat famous and accomplished and so on. And when you're in the green room of these television stations, sometimes you have some small talk with other guests that are sitting around, and usually somebody will say to me, you know, where are you from? And I'll say, I'm from Nutley, New Jersey. And they'll say, oh, where'd you grow up? Nutley, New Jersey. Where's your office? Nutley, New Jersey. Now, for all of us as Nutleyites, that's certainly not unusual. But from people outside of Nutley, it's really an odd answer to say, well, you've been in Nutley your entire life? Yes, that's exactly true. I have been in Nutley my entire life. And as a matter of fact, when I wrote my book, which just came out this year, at the beginning of 2019, Positive Financial Karma, it's available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Shameless plug. But anyway, the first line of that book, I say, other than my 4 years away at college, I have lived in Nutley, New Jersey my entire life. I feel safe here. And that is really true. And I feel it more than ever, that protection that Nutley provides to everyone. You know, when I'm on TV, I have a tendency to provide opinions. That's what I do. And although I try to stay away from politics as much as I can, sometimes you get pulled into it. And we are such a divided country that, needless to say, almost no matter what I say, there's hate tweets out there and a lot of unkind things said about me. And I really brush that off. But the thing about Nutley is, I have never once, not a single time, received anything but encouragement from my fellow Nutleyites. And there are times where I'm places, not that I'm any big star, but there are times where people recognize me. Strangers will come up to me and say, hey, I see you on TV and you're great, or whatever the case is. And that's really nice. But the real thrill for me is when I'm walking in someplace like ShopRite and someone says to me, hey, keep it up. Glad to see what you're doing for our town. That really means a lot to me. Much more than having someone come up to me who I don't know and offer some type of compliment. And that is why when I started my practice, my accounting firm, I started it in Nutley, because I knew instinctually that the people of Nutley would support me and they would help me to try to be successful. And I never forgot that. And that's why I'm still here, and with many of the same clients that I've had from 25 years ago. That's how much Nutley means to me. It's a wonderful place. And it was the same thing after my father's passing when we started the Mike Geltrude Foundation to try to make a difference with people who are suffering from melanoma. We started it here. And all these years later, 13 of the efforts of the Mike Geltrude Foundation, it is still supported just as much now as it was then, of people from Nutley who want to see their own succeed in no matter what they do. And that's really what has made Nutley, I think, the kind of community it is. So as we celebrate the accomplishments of these inductees here, really, to me, this is about Nutley. These are the types of people that Nutley produces and supports. And that's why, more than anything else, that my father was right about why Nutley should have a Hall of Fame. It's because it's such a special community, and it really develops special people. And finally, I would like to thank a few people here today. First of all, I'm amazed. I have 3 of my former teachers here from the Nutley school system, and I know damn well they would have never guessed this day would happen. I'd like to thank Barbara Hirsch for nominating me for this honor. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Second grade teacher there. I'd like to thank my mom, who is here. I'd like to thank my brother John, who's here, my wife Maria, and my son Michael, and my son Frank, who's not able to be here today. He's at Penn State. I'd also like to thank my father. I didn't quite understand his method of parenting. Seemed a little tough, but I guess it paid off, and he would be another person who would never believe I'm here. And finally, and most especially, I would like to thank my grandparents, who just did so much for me that I can't thank them enough. And every good thing that's ever happened to me, I credit them. So thank you all very much.
Our next inductee, Faith Hochberg.
Thank you so much for this honor. How do I turn this microphone lower? Here we go. It's really a great pleasure for me to be back in Nutley. Unlike my predecessor, I haven't lived in this town since I was 17 years old. So if I'd lived in Nutley all my life, I'd still be a cute high school junior. With brown hair. Seriously, like some of my other inductees, it's not shown on my resume, but I love art. In fact, I took art classes privately with a wonderful artist on Irving Place from the time I was about 5 until my high school years. And what I loved about her, her name was Ann Cole, and she was a member of a group of really renowned artists whose work is in places like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and other places. There was a group from Nutley that painted in this town from the 19-teens through around the 1950s and 60s, who are extremely well known, widely written about in books. There was a whole group of them, and they founded that art enclave here. So the reason I mention that is because this trip down memory lane actually started for me, unbeknownst to the committee or anybody here, except my husband, who I only told this to as we were driving here today. It started for me about a year ago when he said to me, you know, you're working so incredibly hard, there must be something you want to do just spur of the moment for fun. And I said, actually, I've always wanted to go see this fabulous new art museum, because it's so hard to start a new art museum, in Bentonville, Arkansas, called Crystal Bridges. And it is an extraordinary place. I encourage any of you who haven't yet been there to go. It's actually very easy to get to and exceptional, both in terms of the architecture of the site and the art collection that's been put together. And in one of the rooms, as we were being given a private tour by the curator, I stopped dead in my tracks. There was this very large painting about Annie Oakley, and in the middle of it was a trompe-l'oeil, Mr. Erbe, of the Nutley Sun. And I stopped and I said to my husband, the Nutley Sun? He said, that's the town I'm from. And he remembered it, and you know, he kept on walking, and I stared at it for a while, because for me, it was really a wonderful trip down memory lane. All the things that I had remembered growing up and loved are in large measure because of this town. This is a town where my dad came here from California as the son of immigrants, the first one in his family to get a college degree. He came here after getting a degree in electronics engineering from Berkeley, to work at ITT. And he met my mom during the war at ITT. She was a daughter of immigrants, the only one in her family to go to college, a genius mathematician who went to Hunter College in New York City, and during World War II, she could actually work, and she met my father. I, of course, was born well after the war, and by the time I came along, she was a stay-at-home housewife, which was very much what women did then. And yet, while we lived here in this town, quietly and in her own way, in the middle of driving carpools and sewing organdy dresses and hand smocking them. Some of the pictures are amazing. She actually went back, took refresher courses in math at Rutgers, and was selected from around the country as one of only 12 people selected by the Ford Foundation to be among the very first mathematicians to develop computers for scientific purposes. It began a field called scientific systems analysis, and she was the only woman in the group and one of their very big stars. And bravo to her, I'm extremely proud of her and what she's done. And it all happened from the time I was about 10 and around 6th grade here until I was 17 and a junior in Nutley High School. I would have graduated in the class of 1968 along with my fellow inductee, Paul Goldberger. We were very good friends. And at that point, she was recruited for a very big job around the tech belt outside of Boston, developed the command and control systems, the computer systems for the AWACS plane, among other things, and we had to move away from this town. And of course, I then went to college and law school in the Boston area and began my career in the law. But it was the values instilled in this town that have been with me really from the beginning. A sense of fairness, of justice, of honor, and of honesty is really what this town taught me subliminally. Nobody said it to me, it just was inculcated into me. It was a place where we didn't have to lock our doors. Even when we went on a 3-week camping trip, nobody would take anything. It was a place where if your neighbor needed help, you were right there to help them. It was a place where we could play kickball in the street and the cars would stop. We could just get on our bikes, ride through the park. It was called the Mud Hole at the time. I don't know if it still is. I see a lot of nods around there. I said to people, oh, we lived by this great park called the Mud Hole. They go, what? The Mud Hole, the great park. To the library. And as we were driving here today, my husband's trying to figure out exactly where he's driving, and I said, it's across the street from a park, because I used to drive my bike through a park and then cross the road and the library was there, and sure enough, here it still is. So this is the town that I think embodies what it really means to be a good town in America. I'll always be proud of my years here. I'm proud to be a Nutleyite. It's a wonderful journey down memory lane to be back. I've now lived all over the place. I've had jobs all over the place. And yes, it's lovely and a high to be confirmed by the Senate twice. And I've been proud of the work and proud of my career. But really, it's the roots that stick with you through a lifetime. And even though he's not from Nutley, my husband embodies those roots. He's a guy of absolute, will help anybody, totally honest, and a really wonderful, loyal, smart, and family-oriented human being. And I think, frankly, he should be an honorary Nutley. So thank you very much, and thank you.
I need a picture.
Great.
We're going to get it right, yes.
Yes. There will not be a test after this on factual information, but I'm going to throw a couple of things out there for James Murray. We know that Thomas Jefferson went to William and Mary, and the Adams went to Harvard. James Merrick, come on up. He went to Muhlenberg College. That will be on the final exam, so we want to make sure we understand that.
I'm not so hard.
Thank you. Interestingly, the order here, I'm going to screw this thing up too. I always thought I'd be standing before a federal judge with an accountant next to me being sketched by an artist. Sorry. Okay, got it. It is truly an honor to be here today. Thank you to the nominating committee. Thank you to the judges, everybody that's part of this. Really an amazing ceremony. I never thought I would be here. And quite frankly, when I was first contacted about this honor, I have to admit, I was very reluctant to accept. I thought I wasn't deserving of such an accolade. One of the other past recipients who I knew and still know, I thought was extremely deserving is Adam Larue of the 2017 induction class. Adam served our country as a Navy SEAL, completing some of the most demanding training the military had to offer. He traveled the globe, fighting against some of the most dangerous people in the world. And I represent baseball players. The closest I've come to fighting Al-Qaeda is some fierce contract negotiations with an unruly club official. So how could I deserve the same honor? It then became clear. It wasn't about me. It's about this special town. This is a great place. This is about the wonderful people in this town who helped me make me who I am. This is about all the people I had the pleasure of knowing throughout the years. And while my name is the only one on this plaque, this honor is really about the people who have helped lay the foundation for any success I've had, not me. I am truly blessed to have such great people by my side. I'm truly blessed to have attended Yannicall Elementary School, Franklin Middle School, and Nutley High. Right out of the gate, my kindergarten phys ed teacher, Mr. John Colicchio, who's in attendance today. He was only 24. Mr. Colicchio went on to teach me again in junior high and was a coach in both baseball and football throughout high school. Like so many Nutleyites, he and his family remain part of my family to this day. Mr. Colicchio is one of the many Nutley educators who helped build the foundation for who I am. Throughout the years of the Nutley school system, so many wonderful people helped me along the way, way too many to name. But a few came to mind. I think of Joe Zara. I can remember playing, I'm sorry, I skipped a page. I didn't take public speaking with Mr. Sassy. I think of Joe Zara. He was my coach along with Mr. Colicchio for freshman football, and the laughs that we had out of that locker room were endless. He wasn't only the coach, and in those days we didn't have a trainer, so Mr. Zara would frequently tape ankles before the game. And I remember vividly thinking and looking at my toes being blue while trying to run around the Nutley Oval, and it's a memory that sticks with me forever. So a good taping by Coach Z. Thankfully and miraculously, I still have all 10 toes. He wasn't much of a trainer, but he was truly a great man and a great educator. So many others from Yannicall School, Miss Anello, Miss Carpenter, and someone who I really think about often, Mr. John Walker. Mr. Walker taught me at a very early age to overcome adversity. He was a great man. And it's so fitting that his legacy lives on across the street at the middle school. From junior high to high school, Mr. Catcherbone, Miss Ames, Joe Bertuzzi, the famous Mr. Suff, Mr. McGinley, Miss Tropiano, Mr. Affinito, Coach Kelly, and so many other coaches, teachers, and staff. I am blessed to have had the pleasure of learning from all of you. This town is definitely special. The people of this town are so special. So many great families who have been part of my life for so many years. The Zinnas, who are in attendance today, the Ferraras, the Olivos, the Lareys, the Ricardis, the Sergises, the Solaris, and the Servacios, just to name a few. Amazing they hung out with the Murray, but thank you. I am truly blessed to have all of you in my life. This town is so special for so many reasons. I can remember playing youth football and learning very early in life that we, from Nutley, are different. Our coaches would say, we are going to beat this team. They are bigger and stronger, but we have more heart. We are tough, and we will win, no matter how big they are. Now, this was certainly a convenient thing to say when our coaching staff consisted of Mr. Zinna and Mr. Larue. If you stacked them on each other, they wouldn't measure 7 feet tall. But they were right. Nutley people are tough. People from Nutley do have tremendous heart and pride. And those traits stayed with me throughout my entire life. I am truly blessed to be surrounded by such wonderful people. This has been a consistent theme throughout my life, even in my professional career. It has never been about me. It has always been about the people around me. I've had the pleasure of representing and being around some of the best baseball players in the world. However, most importantly, they are some of the best people, from players like New York Yankee Andy Pettitte and New Jersey's own Rick Porcello or Al Leiter. They're wonderful people. I've been blessed. I'm so fortunate to have learned from them. Now, coincidentally, when I think of Hall of Fame, I think of Cooperstown, New York. I do baseball for a living. And to me, Yogi Berra is someone I think of all the time. He's someone that embodies the Hall of Fame. And when I was just out of college, I started my professional career. I met Yogi briefly at an event. I introduced myself like 1,000 other people have. We exchanged a few words, and that was about it. About a year later, I was at the airport. I was at LAX flying back to Newark. As usual, rushing to the terminal to board a plane, having to use the bathroom, run into the bathroom, get by the stall. I turned to my right, and who's right next to me but Yogi Berra. So I didn't want to say anything. It would be pretty creepy to interrupt what he was doing at that point in time. So I just looked straight ahead. And then I hear from him, "Hey kid, what are you doing here?" I look at him like, "You're Yogi Berra, and you're asking me what I'm doing here. This is pretty cool. I am in a really cool industry. I get to meet some unbelievable people, and that's a story that just sticks out in my mind." After that, something I'll never forget as well, we get off the plane. My father, who normally does, comes pick me up at the airport. We are waiting for our luggage to come out. Yogi's standing next to me. I get to introduce my dad to Yogi. And I see this Houston Astros suitcase that looked like it was 50 years old coming around the turnstile. And Yogi said, "That's mine." And I said, "Yo, didn't you coach the Astros like 30 years ago?" And without skipping a beat, he looked at me and he said, "I don't know why people spend money on luggage. You only use it when you travel." Again, I am so blessed to have the people, such great people around me. My family, who I am going to ask to stand, please. When my reluctance to come here was encouraged so much by them. Including my brother back there. I definitely would not be standing here if it wasn't for all of you. I'm not going to get emotional, I promise. And I would not be here if it wasn't for all of you. My brother, Eric Murray, class of 1999, Nutley High School, outstanding athlete, but even more importantly, the best brother anyone could have. his daughter Tessa, currently at Yannikov School, but future Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. So you'll be getting this, you'll be part of that tree at some point in time. His wife Megan and little man Jack, thank you all, I love you. I grew up on Highfield Lane. My parents still live there. Joy and Jim still refer to it as home. I can say unequivocally, I would not be the person I am today without their love, guidance, and unwavering support. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I'm not gonna get emotional even though she's crying. I hope I make you proud, I love you. My children. Mackenzie, stand up, Mackenzie. And James. You make Mom and Dad so proud every day. You are our inspiration. We love you so much. And as a matter of fact, today is the day before someone's special birthday in James. So if everybody could join me in singing Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear James. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. James is a little shy. He doesn't get Dad's trait for tonight. All right, so that was just like a little key to me not getting emotional again, so I threw everybody off. But it is his birthday. Last but not least, the rock in my life, my wife Suzanne. This life that I lead, although it sounds pretty cool, it's not a fun one at times. It's very difficult. As a matter of fact, this week I'm flying back from Arizona and I get an email from United Airlines saying, "Congratulations, you're in the Million Mile Club." I said, "Awesome, 1,000,000 miles, Nutley Hall of Fame, same week, that's great." But it certainly takes a toll, and having Mama at home is certainly not only helpful, but couldn't be more appreciative. Suzanne and I met 20 years ago at Muhlenberg College. And amazingly, she stuck with me through thick and thin. Even though she's not from Nutley, she, more than me, deserves to be honored today. I love you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the best mother, wife, and friend that anyone could ask for. I am truly blessed to have all of you as part of my life. I thank you to the committee, specifically Mr. Scalera and Mr. Servazio, who knew me way back when, and I cannot believe, well, thankfully I'm not in front of a federal judge, so I still get this, even though maybe another inductee was in front. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for attending. This is truly an honor that I will never forget. Thank you.
Before we bring Joe, the mayor, up to install everyone, what every one of our inductees had mentioned, if you are fortunate enough to have a program, you turn the program over. This My Little Town was written for Nutley, though a lot of towns could call it their own and could say, well, that looks like where I'm from. Make no mistake, that is, My Little Town is Nutley, New Jersey. It was explicitly written for that purpose. And if you read especially the last verse, it basically says it all about being the envied. There's very few communities that are a better home court advantage than this town. We very rarely eat our own, but we are ferociously defensive of people from the outside saying anything about people from Nutley. And people can attest to that. So right now, I'd like to bring up His Honor, Joe Scarpelli, the mayor.
Well, Thank you, and congratulations to everybody. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, for those from out of town, I'd like to welcome you to Nutley. From those who have moved away, welcome back. And for those who have never left, thank you. What you heard today a lot of times was that Nutley's a special place, and what I like to call Nutley is the center of the universe. And I had one of those center of the universe experiences this weekend. As many of you know, Ralph Lauren moved into the former Roche site. They moved in 1,100 people. Half of those from New York City, Madison Avenue. And there was a documentary on HBO called Very Ralph. And I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. Ralph Lauren's moving here, it's great. And who are two of the people that were in the documentary? They're Nutley Hall of Famers, Paul Goldberger and Martha Stewart. So, as usual, I said to my wife, see, Nutley is the center of the universe. Danny told me a story a couple months ago, him being on Neil Cavuto, that he's talking to Neil Cavuto, and Neil Cavuto lived in Nutley for a while. So, again, Nutley, the center of the universe. So, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and as mayor, I declare all of you installed as members of the Nutley Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That makes it official. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2019. That concludes our program. We now have a reception. Tariq Huggins at the high school as his students preparing things. And Maria, would you like to come up and give us a little? Our library director, Maria LeBady.
I'm hoping I have to do the closing remarks, so I want to thank you all for coming. Let's give them another.
My balance, everyone.